Welcome to the Loyal Opposition Podcast. I'm Bernie Flowers, a retired military officer, a retired civil servant, a published author, and a former congressional candidate. I believe that our country's best days are still in front of us, but if those best days are to come, we need to change the direction of the country right now before it's too late. I intend to talk about important topics every week in hopes of helping to improve our country and our way of life. Please like, share, and subscribe. Let's get started. Ann Taydus is the co-founder and vice president of Virginians for Children First. It's a nonprofit dedicated to action, accountability, and creating long-term change in the Commonwealth so that all children can live in a world where their God-given right to innocence is preserved and protected. She's a graduate of Virginia Tech University, where she double majored in geopolitical war history and electronic print journalism. She's a mother of two beautiful young daughters in Chesterfield County, Virginia. She's exposed the war on our children being implemented by global agencies, federal legislation, and the education truth, crossing both political aisles, fighting to end the identity politics in educational systems and opening eyes and hearts in the state of Virginia and the nation as to how we got here and what drives her as an American, as a Virginian, and as a mother. She is a true warrior mom. Ann, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I am outstanding. I am very, very happy to have you on the program. And bottom line is we got a lot of mutual friends and a whole lot of mutual issues that we need to work on together.
Correct.
So,
absolutely.
Tell us about yourself and your organization.
So 2 years ago, I was just a mother who I'd never been to a school board meeting. I thought Republican, good, Democrat, that's how I was raised, is that there was two parties that had distinct issues. And so I went to my first school board meeting in a division, and we had the transgender model policy up for just, and they voted to mask, and in a Republican majority board, both issues 100% mask and the co-ed bathrooms, removal of parental rights, and the transgender in under 4 minutes, both. And for me, as a journal, after 4 or 5 hours of public comment, it did not make sense. And my journalist researcher brain went, something's very wrong here. And so I started asking the questions that all parents should be asking. And it led to down a road that I never thought that I would be in. This was never my, what I thought I was going to do with my life. And so from that, met my co-founder, Bobby Ebereth, and we are literally, when we talk about Virginia, we are two people, and we work our butts off because actual true grassroots, is money poor. We are funded by the people for the people because we've had grants offered to us. But when you take that grant money, that's why you have what we, AstroTurf is what they are, is the appearance of looking like grass, but there's been no actual growth. The community has not been involved. You haven't done the work is that it's hard, especially when we started to figure out, well, there's a very big problem when, say, the governor's saying he's banning CRT. Well, is that you can't ban CRT. One, it's not that easy. Explaining to people how it is integrated, and then is that, okay, why are we not receiving anything that we were promised, because that's why you were elected. And so, I found myself in a precarious spot of realizing that our own people were allowing a lot of the stuff that they said that they were against through education policy. And so, we really had to come to a very firm stance. And I tell people is that when you get into this arena, you have to be so based that, like in boxing, you know, I used to teach Muay Thai, that you can't be knocked down. Like, is that you in your conviction and your knowledge, you have to be ready to have anybody come at you and be ready, you know, and that's how I am. Is you can come have the conversation, but I know enough that I promise you won't, and they don't. is I feel like Morpheus in the Matrix, when he's like,
oh yeah,
is that's literally when he's like, I'm like, bring it. Nobody does, because I'm the one that I have the knowledge. And not only that, I'm fearless, is that I'm fighting for a nation, not just a nation, literally, because once these children are done with this education, the democratic form of government, we've seen the decline. Our value system is that democracy will no longer be repeated. It will not be able to be repeated. Is that so? In the failing of the children, the failing of the nation will follow quickly, if not at the same time, because who's having children now going into this school system? And is that the fate of the nation is literally what we are looking at.
Totally.
And
agree.
I'm not, people look at me and they're like, that's so true. I'm like, no, it's not. I'm like, you have children, like we have parents that don't know that parental rights are far beyond a one-liner added to a code in our Virginia Constitution. Like, that's not where our parental rights lie. And so what do you think these children being taught to be, you know, citizens, or, you know, what does that, is that you should not be teaching, is that what kind of citizens? Like, is that these are the questions that people need to answer. It's not what you think it is.
Well, hey, let me ask you this. You mentioned CRT, critical race theory. What is critical race theory, and where did it come from?
So critical race theory this is what I tell people, is that if you're going to talk about it, you need to understand, one is that you can't say we have to get critical race theory out of schools, because it is a legal, like, college curriculum, legal theory. Derek Bell, back in the 70s, it's there's many critical queer theory, there's all the theories, which are all based off of Marxism. And so then you get into is that critical race theory is simply this. I tell people, if you have something being oppressor oppressed, so our 8th grade civics last year in Chesterfield County, they gave out to 8th grade civics, to what degree do whites have more privilege over blacks? That is point blank. It's probably the most blatant example, I tell you, of critical race theory. There's no discussion. It is here. They are, to what degree? And is that it is being taught. You can call it critical, you know, is that there's 100 different terms that you could use, but is that if you're going to talk about it, it is being taught, and it is teaching. And this is what I tell people all the time. I pulled my children, not only because they're that we have co-ed bathrooms, but because I refuse. I was raised, and so they say that being colorblind is racist. Okay. My children do not see color. You love people until they give it, no matter what, because that's what God tells us to do. I don't see color. And that is now the language that you hear, is that is racist. And so then you've got Kendi, Ibram Kendi, and how anti-racism is a big thing, is that one cannot simply be, you know, you can't just be, I don't believe race, because that signifies that you're okay with racism. You must be an anti-racist, which means you must actively be seeking to destroy systemic racism.
Sounds like there's no way to win.
But that's the thing too, is I tell people, is I'm like, so this is where my war history of the 20th century, so like World War I to World War II is really like, and so we just wear the mask. All I heard was just wear the star. No, like, is it so this appeasement? Okay, I wrote my thesis in college on, I found a woman who was a non-persecuted European and she was a child, and how she watched, and her parents especially, the appeasement process of, you know, if we just give them this, they'll go away. They built the ghettos. If appeasement is that, and then the life that she had to live afterwards, having watched and done nothing, you know, and then her parents, you know, of course, long since passed away, but is, you know, is that you cannot, it's a black hole. You feed a black hole, what does it do? It gets bigger until eventually the black hole gets big enough, it will swallow you up. And so is that the appeasement with these ideas that you think are insane. Okay, well, let's give them a little bit of a public, and it's where we are with the ACLU, is that we're being governed by the ACLU, and I mean, they're nothing that they used to be. They're actually like anti what they used to like. But is that you compliance? Like, I hear one of my favorite songs, compliance, and I will not comply, because it is that when you comply, we did it, like, especially with what's coming up in the future with this new talk about the masks coming back, is that we did it once. If you comply a second time, it is not a law. A mandate is not a law. And if it's an unconstitutional mandate, like, it is our duty as Americans to resist and fight back against tyranny. It's like, but it's this thing. It's like people don't even know how to be American. But I refuse to tell my children is what critical race theory is, what it looks like in schools. You must acknowledge my color constantly, always. I'm only my color. And if you do not, you are destroying you are spirit murdering my Black joy. Like, that's what they're teaching children, is that if you do not acknowledge. And so my children go to a private school that I will have to add, if you send them, you have to vet very well, you know, very, very well. It may not have the radical outside, but the horrible education that they're getting could still be in there. But I walked into my kindergartner's class last year, and she was the minority. And people have this image of like, and these mothers that I get to talk to. And, you know, she said, a woman came up to my child the other day and was talking to her about being Black. And her little girl was like, no, it's more like a soft caramel. And the woman kept telling the woman, no, you're Black. And the mother was like, that's not who, or like, that is her history. That's her ancestry. And when the age of her will go, even that will come about, but that's not who our children are. Because I go out into a world, and it's like, I notice it all day long. And I talk to people like from every spectrum of the, you know, from every walks of life, Wawa, no matter where I am. And I have wonderful conversations. So this systemic racism, I don't live in it. We don't live in it currently. Like, I talk to people all day. I was in Goodwill yesterday talking, in that there is still love in this world. Certainly. There is still people who do not believe. The majority is what we are being told, and then teaching children is that children will come out hating each other, and that's what's happening. Is it's a division. It is nothing. There's nothing positive,
and that's what the globalists are counting on. Hey, I got another related question for you though. Is this CRT helping or hurting race relations in this country?
Oh, absolutely. It's horrific. It has divided us, and that's the intention. You can read, there's a lot of liberal, like left wing education bloggers who will tell you that the culture war has been the overshadowing to have us divided on purpose, so that we could not see the uni-party agenda underneath. And I tell people all the time, and I'm like, if I'm going to acknowledge the fact that we are 50th in the nation, and you talk about school, so I went toe to toe with the ACLU and the NAACP at a Board of Education, Virginia Board of Education, is that 4th grade literacy is how they forecast prison matriculation.
Wow.
We are 50th in the nation and have been for years for literacy in both 4th and 8th grade. So if you speak for these historically marginalized children, why are you up here complaining about there's not enough Dred Scott, that you removed this, you did that, when these children can't read? And then 4th grade literacy, when you want to talk about Black fathers, where they go, they're forecasting prison matriculation on the on the fact that these children are in 4th grade literacy and we are 50th in the nation, and then you're going to call me a racist? No, I'm
Absolutely
sorry.
unacceptable.
No, because you're pushing equity. You're pushing children through. So congratulations, they graduated with a piece of paper and they can't read. And that's
Not
what
cool.
equity is. No, it's not. And I'm not a racist for telling you that either. Like, is that it's facts. Congratulations, you have leveled the playing field, which has made all of the children dumber. And but it's both parties. Like it's atrocious. But the one thing I will not do is ever to tell my children to look at somebody and the first thing that they have to do is see their skin color. Not only that, but constantly acknowledge it.
It's funny. When I was coming up, little bit before you, we were taught about the great melting pot, and
yes,
that
melting pot is you're evil. Even if you were to go in front and mention it, you would then you would be like in the Thomas Sowell, like you would be in that group of like, well, you're not black enough. Like that's like the language.
I've been called everything but a child of God, and I'm a big fan of Thomas Sowell, by the way.
Yes, but it's like is that like when I tell like Uncle Tom, like in Uncle Tom 2 that just came out, like I stood there that whole movie like, and I told you watch it because you'll have like brothers, that are talking about when they realize that they have been lied to. It's like they say it's like going to the granddad's funeral, and you see the other side of the family who are doctors and who are lawyers, and they're still living like in Section 8 housing with drug dealers. And these are profound things. But Uncle Tom 2 really gets into the Marxist stuff. It's much more in depth, but is that understanding these things and then going out and I constantly seek to prove I'm wrong, and anybody researching, that's how you should do it. And in doing so is that you're going to see things about what you believe that you don't like, but you cannot ignore them.
Exactly.
Because there's absolutely nothing being done from education across that's constitutional, first of all, but it's American. Like they're teaching collectivism, which is that's where the globalist comes in. Like our kindergarten standards of learning, civics, kindergarten.
Yes.
It's not sharing anymore. It's sharing for the well-being of others. Like
the Marxists are attacking us. They can't beat us physically or militarily, so they attack our children. And we are busy working and carrying on with our lives, so we don't see it unless we're involved like you are.
That's right. And being in the arena, I can tell you it is at times not fun. But I tell parenting is not easy.
No.
Being and we are at a time where we were lazy long enough. We relied on the government, and is that being in the arena, whether it's running or doing what we do, traveling the state, speaking, lighting the brush fires of freedom in the minds of men. It's not easy, but if anybody wants this country to survive, it is a must.
Yeah.
A must.
Another question for you. What would you like to say to the audience? The floor is yours.
I would like to tell parents, in the education arena, which once you understand it, it is all encompassing with what everybody. I talk to the election integrity people. I talk to the medical freedom people, is that it is all under the same umbrella of we are not living in a free world. I do. Somebody told me that my existence is literally an act of rebellion, is that I live free. If you send your child into a school that you're told that you don't have any decision about what you can and cannot teach them, then you are chained. You are not living in a free world. Parental rights, I'm speaking next week at a Constitution Day event about how the founding fathers framed it, from the Declaration of Independence to the Constitution, to the Bill of Rights, to the Supreme Court, is that if you are not able to speak freely, if you are afraid, the rebels like myself who were born, I will compliance I will not do. I am a high defiant nonconformist.
There you go.
We will not be the heroes of this story. The people who have the fear but the knowledge, who get over their fear to stand up, they will be the heroes. They will be the ones that change the tide, because there's only so much that those of us that are like patriotic, red, white, and blue blood to the core can do, until the people with the fear, once you get over the fear, it is so empowering to release the fear, to look at your children every single night and know that you did everything in your power to save this nation for them and to protect them.
Yeah.
Is that it is the most joy. I can have people come at me all day long from both sides, attack me all day long, but when I pick up my kids and I hug those little girls and I know that I was the best mother and the best American that anybody could be, like, you can take anything away from me, but you will never take that away. Is that
And
I lived and died for and it is that at my last breath, I would know that I will do everything that I could to save my nation and my children.
I get it. I totally get it. And you are not alone.
Thank you.
I can see the emotion in your voice. It's beautiful.
Like, I hear the Star Spangled Banner or Neil Diamond America, and I just cry in my car, because like,
and
I mean, we are the freest nation in the world, and we are watching it burn in front of our eyes. Yeah. Literally.
And you're doing something about it. That's the most important thing.
Yes.
You know, and hopefully we can bring some people along with us and save this thing, because it's worth saving.
Yet it's a must. And you know, I do this. People say, what do you do for a living? I'm like, well, it's not living, but is it 16 hours a day? I was up at 4 a.m. doing school board candidate endorsements. Is that it's exhausting, but anybody that wants to figure it out and talk about it and work through it that's what I do all day. Like, I talk to people, but is that we have to do it together, and it's, you know, county, your divisions in your state, but all, because you can't fight this in your county alone, because none of it's coming from your county. And then other states too, is that's where we start to make progress, is when we unite, because we're sandwiched in between DC. So yes, the two, we should absolutely be, but that's when the resistance is, that we are at the place where we have to, it's cross the Rubicon time. Like, we are at that moment.
Well, I got another question for you. How can the audience reach you if they need to?
Well, since you're streaming to Facebook, it's extremely easy. You can look up my name, Craft Taydus. My page is public. You can follow me. I did it, but you cannot comment unless we're friends. But it is public. But also you can look up Virginians for Children First. We have a page which is public, and we also have a group, which is, the purpose is, that's where files can be put in there, opt-outs, you know, but it's people across the nation are in there. It's not just Virginia, because the issues that we discuss in the state are the same issues across the nation. Is, you know, and anybody is it, follow me, you know, reach out, have questions, unite. We've traveled state, we've been to different states, is these issues, you know, like I said, but please reach out. Like, you know, is that's literally what I do all day long. We have a website. You can type out Virginians for Children First, or VAFCF.org. And there's tons of information in there regarding federal law, data privacy. You know, there's an email, there's a newsletter, you can sign up for all of that. So there's tons of ways. You know, we have a YouTube channel where I blast all kinds. I mean, the truth on there is, I'm surprised I haven't been kicked off yet. But you know, I love doing shows with, you know, I worked with Purple Parents in Indiana, and is that, you know, really coming together, you know, in Pennsylvania, North Carolina, is, you know, getting parents together from different states and talking about these things and exposing the truth that's going on, especially in your red states, or like your purple states, or your newly red states, is really explaining to people that, I tell people, I have a shirt that it's got the America, we are not okay. Like Virginia, like and the mainstream media telling you that it's all a lie, and is that, really exposing to people that don't do what Virginia did. Like if you're told that, don't do it. But yeah, I mean, so please reach out, questions, and it's really about us uniting together. And it's the original grassroots, it's actual grassroots, not conservative, groups planted to appear as if they speak for the community, because I promise you they do not. So it's
And
pretty easy to
you're
find me.
one. There you go. And you have a new t-shirt design. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how you came up with it?
So, from different rallies and stuff, I've always seen like the black, 2A come and take it. And from the beginning, because my co-founder is a big 2A guy, he was really involved in the monuments being torn down, but 2A was really his thing. And when he thought that he was going to come in and, get a whole bunch of parents to because people will unite if you tell them they're coming for their guns, but you did not only tell them that they're coming for their children's or their parental rights, but they actually have done it. And they just said they don't know how to fight it.
Explain 2A for us.
So the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms.
There you go.
So people understand, like, is that because it's actually like in a bill, it's a Bill of Rights. Like people
Right.
Is that, so what I explain to people is that parental rights is not, it was never, because it is God-given, it is a natural right, which goes to the Declaration of Independence. Life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness in the Constitution. Life, okay, it's life is over liberty. Life and liberty are over happiness, which is people have really, you cannot put happiness above life or liberty above life, is that it goes in that order. My child are born of my body. They are therefore an extension of my body. So life is first. Is that it? You cut off my arm, you hurt me. My choice is that raising a child does not end at birth. It's framed in the First Amendment. Religious freedom is that it is framed throughout different 8th, 9th, 10th, 14th Amendment. But really the 14th Amendment due process is that's where the shirt came from. Is when we talk about, you have to understand how to fight it, and that brings in the Third Amendment, because now they're doing home visits in schools, is understanding how quartering of troops through common law in the Constitution or in Supreme Court, that amendment became your right to privacy in your domicile. So when those teachers come for home visits, no, ma'am, that's your right. But it's really come and take it. I'm one of those, like, you can is that you will have to peel my God-given American pre-political right to raise my children as I see fit off my cold dead body. And that's how every parent is that. And every parent should. And so that's what that shirt came about, was I took the mask, I guess it's a Greek warrior mask, and I took, the middle portion, the gun portion out, and I did a simple silhouette of a mother with it holding up her baby, and I made a shirt out of it, because that's how that. And we will have a t-shirt link up on the website soon, because I've done some pretty cool designs, because I'm one of those, my body, my billboard. I do not go to a meeting, a school board meeting or anywhere without some kind of statement of truth.
You're going to have t-shirts big enough to fit rascals like me?
You can order. We've got some wonderful company in Orange, Virginia, that was the first county to really embrace us here in Virginia, so they will go straight from them to you. Is that you can order any size, color, sweatshirts, whatever you want, you can get. But we've got some really cool shirts.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I thank you, and we'll be ordering one of those shirts pretty soon. You are about families and children and the traditional American way, and so am I. And I'm proud to know you, and I'm proud for my audience to know you. So thank you for being on our show, and I look forward to I look forward to working with you in the future, because we're working towards the same thing.
You know what? Let's do something, and we will come up there, because us. I mean, I love joining forces. There's not, I mean, that's really what fills me up is people contact me, and is that when we work together is that we're taking steps forward. We're not treading water is really where we have to be.
Absolutely outstanding. All right. Well, we're about done now. Thank you so much for being on our show.
Thank you.
Well, that's about it for now. This has been the Loyal Opposition Podcast, produced in association with Liberty Arise Media, Fallback Productions, and other podcasters. I ask that you like, share, and subscribe to this podcast and to these channels. Be sure to get your copy of my book, Black Values Matter, available on Amazon or as an ebook on Audible and Apple Books. And also, it's okay to disagree, but if we want our country to prosper, we must insist on unity, transparency, and civility from ourselves and our fellow citizens. Thanks for listening to the Loyal Opposition Podcast. See you next week.